I was just 11 months away from retirement. 11. After 34 years of loyal service to the same company, I had a plaque on my desk with my name engraved, a gold watch already promised, and a quiet little cabin in Montana waiting for me. I had no enemies, or at least I thought I didn't. But that changed the moment I walked into the Monday morning meeting and saw the empty chair where I usually sat already filled by someone else. That someone was Ethan, young, overly confident, and with a smirk that said he knew something I didn't. My boss, Greg, stood at the front of the room with his usual fake warmth. "Let's get started," he said, completely ignoring me. My heart started pounding. I wasn't on the email list for this meeting, which was odd, but I assumed it was a clerical error after all. I had been here longer than Greg himself. I sat in the corner, just watched. At the end of the meeting, Greg said, "Mark, can you stay back for a quick chat?" I nodded, still clueless. Then he closed the door, leaned against the table like he was about to give me advice, and said the words I'll never forget. "Your role is being eliminated, effective immediately. HR will be contacting you this afternoon." My mouth went dry. I stared at him for a full 5 seconds before I could even form words. "What are you talking about?" There was no discussion. No warning. I've got less than a year left. "Greg, it's a budget thing." He cut me off, not meeting my eyes. Corporate decision. But it wasn't. And I knew it. I walked out of that room stunned. I wasn't just shocked. I was humiliated. Everyone watched me pack my things into a cardboard box. No one said a word. The office I had helped build from the ground up, the one where I'd mentored half the people in the building, now felt cold, unfamiliar, disposable, like I never existed. But the worst part? I couldn't shake the look Ethan gave me as I passed him in the hallway. A smirk, like he'd just won something. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept going over every decision I'd made in the last year. Had I messed up? Had I missed something? But then I remembered 3 months ago. I'd walked into the break room late at night and heard Greg whispering on the phone. He didn't notice I was there. He was talking to someone named Claire. It wasn't his wife's name. He said something like, "No one will find out as long as she stays quiet." Back then, I didn't think much of it. I figured maybe it was personal drama. But now that I'd been thrown out like trash, something didn't feel right. I decided to dig. Not for revenge, but for truth. At first, I had an old friend in HR, Carla. She'd been with the company almost as long as I had. I called her, casually at first, asked about any major policy shifts. She hesitated, then said, "Honestly, I thought it was weird too. You weren't even on the list of roles flagged for downsizing." That one sentence lit the fuse. I wasn't crazy. I was targeted. But why? I started piecing things together. Claire, the smirk Ethan gave me, and Greg, firing me just months before my full retirement benefits kicked in. This wasn't random. I could feel it in my bones. I had to know the truth, not just for revenge, but because something deeper told me this ran far below the surface. I remembered that night in the break room, 3 months ago. I'd stayed late finishing a report when I heard Greg's voice. He didn't know I was there. He was speaking softly on the phone to someone named Claire. That wasn't his wife's name. Back then, I thought it was some harmless drama. But now, I wasn't so sure. I started digging. Not through gossip or speculation, but through what I still had access to. See, during my time as senior systems manager, I'd set up and maintained our internal archive system. Even after being fired, I still had limited access on my phone because no one had revoked my admin-level cloud permissions. Rookie mistake. Or maybe fate. I logged in late at night, scanning through archived files, looking for anything that seemed out of place. And that's when I found a folder titled Lunch Meeting, May 4. It didn't belong to any department. Inside, an audio file. I pressed play. I'll never forget what I heard. Greg's voice, recorded in a quiet room. Once I get the VP promotion, no one will question this. Claire, you'll be on contract by then. We just need to stay quiet. Then Claire, what about Mark? You said he overheard something. Greg chuckled. Mark's old. They always fade out before things heat up. He'll be gone before any of this matters. My chest tightened. It wasn't paranoia. Greg planned this. My firing wasn't budget-related, it was personal damage control. He was trying to secure his promotion by cutting loose anyone who might expose him. And I was his insurance policy. I didn't sleep that night. I backed up the file 3 times, one copy on a drive I kept in my drawer, another in a safety deposit box, and a third I sent to my personal attorney with a note. Open only if I tell you, or something happens to me. I then reached out to Carla, my friend in HR. I asked to meet. We sat at a small diner off company grounds. I pulled out my phone, played the recording. Her eyes widened halfway through. Mark, she said slowly, this changes everything. She promised to escalate it internally. But I didn't stop there. I uploaded the file anonymously to a private inbox monitored by corporate compliance. I also sent a brief message to the board of directors. Evidence of misconduct by regional manager Greg, relationship with temp staff. Targeted dismissal of long-time employees to suppress exposure. If this is not investigated internally, I will take this public. 2 days later, Greg was summoned to headquarters. Word spread like wildfire. Ethan looked pale. Claire didn't show up to work. The atmosphere at the office shifted from fake smiles to tight-lipped silence. I was no longer the man they pushed out. I was the one they feared would reveal everything. On the 3rd day, I got a call from Carla. You need to come in, she said. They want to speak with you. The regional HR director is here. I walked into the building like a ghost, returning to haunted. My badge didn't scan anymore, but Carla met me at the door and led me through. The man waiting in the conference room introduced himself as Edward Chambers. Crisp suit. No small talk. Mr. Wallace, he began. We've reviewed the audio files and accompanying reports. There's no question misconduct occurred. Claire has admitted to the affair. Greg attempted to eliminate anyone he viewed as a threat, including you. I didn't speak. I waited. He continued. Greg has been removed from his position pending formal review. We'd like to offer you an apology, as well as a full reinstatement of your retirement benefits. And if you're willing, a formal statement from you would help us pursue full legal action. I looked at him and said, you don't need a statement. You already have the truth. What you do with it, that's up to you. I walked out of that room with my head held high. But I wasn't finished yet. Something in me needed closure. Not just from Greg, from the people who watched it happen, from the company I gave everything to. I asked Carla if I could say a few words at the next all-staff meeting. She hesitated, but Edward approved it. Make it short, he said. Professional. The following Monday, they gathered everyone in the auditorium for what was described as a transparency update. I stood in front of the same faces who had watched me pack my box in silence, the same ones who looked away. I took the mic, my voice calm. Some of you saw me leave a few weeks ago and said nothing, and maybe you thought you had no choice. Maybe you thought it was just another round of budget cuts. But it wasn't. I was fired to keep a secret hidden, a secret that's now out in the open. Greg is gone. The company is cleaning house. And I'm back not to stay, but to finish what I started. I paused. The room was still. Let this be a reminder. Silence doesn't protect you. It just delays the fallout. I'm walking away with my full benefits. My name cleared, and a clean conscience. I hope all of you find the same. I left the room to quiet applause. No cheers, just reflection. A few people stopped me in the hall, some offered apologies. Others just nodded. I didn't need their words. Their faces said enough. That evening, as I sat on my back porch watching the sun dip behind the trees, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Peace. I had planned to fade quietly into retirement. Greg changed that. But maybe, in some strange way, he gave me a better exit than I could have scripted. A week later, I got a call from a journalist I used to know, local business column. Word had gotten out, and he wanted the exclusive. I declined. This wasn't about going public. This was about keeping my dignity. But I did ask him one thing. When you write about Greg, I said, don't make it about scandal. Make it about what happens when people forget who built the foundation they now stand on. He agreed. The article ran quietly. A few people emailed me afterward, old colleagues, even a few retirees who heard what happened. Most just said the same thing. Glad someone finally stood up. I spent the next few months preparing to leave the city. Montana was calling. The air was colder, the nights quieter, but the peace was real. And just before I packed the last box, I got one final envelope in the mail. It was from the company. Thick, official. I opened it. Inside was a formal letter of apology, signed by the CEO himself, along with a handwritten note. You were right to speak up. People like you make this place better, even after they leave. And underneath that note, a check, not just for missed compensation, but a legacy bonus, they called it. I smiled, not for the money, but because even the people at the top knew I hadn't just fought for myself. I had reminded them all some things are worth standing up for, no matter how close you are to the finish line. I folded the letter, tucked it away, and walked out the door. One chapter closed. On my terms,